back one step, and we have Kathy Sexton in the audience. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
And you're going to brief on economic development for the city of Wichita.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And and my compliments to the committee too for the transportation policy body for making this a priority to get this kind of view, this big picture view. And I have reviewed and watched the videos of your previous speakers. And Mr. Heslop, you can let Mr. Squires know that I'm not going to take near as long as he took last month. So but I do appreciate the time though. And as you all probably know, in Wichita, we don't have a whole building full of economic development staff like some cities our size would. What we have is a partnership with the Greater Wichita Partnership. When I say that, do you know what I'm talking about? The Greater Wichita Partnership. So for decades, the city and the county and the Chamber of Commerce cooperated to jointly do economic development, and that evolved into something called the Greater Wichita Partnership. And of course, there's also economic development opportunities with the various other communities, both cities, both in our county, but also sometimes just outside of our county, as you all know. So Greater Wichita Partnership literally chases leads, and they're our sales force out front. They chase leads, and then they figure out the best place for that particular business, whether it be Newton or Andover or Wichita or Cheney or what have you. So we all do try to cooperate. I think one of the things Dan told you last month from Derby is that we all try to look at each other's policies and make sure we learn from each other. We don't reinvent the wheel. We don't duplicate effort. We obviously sometimes tailor a policy to meet that community's needs, but also work together and not try to steal companies or jobs from each other. So there's a high degree of cooperation. And the other thing I would tell you is, as Andrew Nave told you several months ago in the very first presentation to you about Greater Wichita Partnership and the regional growth plan, if you'll remember, he said, I know you don't remember, so I'm going to tell you, right? I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so I know this is difficult. Regional growth plan that they have focused on as their guiding star, their North Star, is jobs, quality of place, and talent, workforce, right? Keeping people here. Don't educate them in our wonderful Kansas colleges and universities and then shush them out the door or let them go other places without feeling like they have opportunities here. We've made great strides on that. I'll be honest. And who here remembers over 10 years ago when downtown Wichita looked a lot different than what it does today? I mean it. Come on, put up your hands. You remember, right? You remember when there were a lot of empty buildings downtown. And just the fact that downtown Wichita, Downtown Development Corporation, was established over a decade ago and has been working with the city, with the Greater Wichita Partnership, with the private businesses. Downtown today looks a whole lot different than it did 10 years ago. And we all know the renaissance in Old Town that began essentially in the mid-90s. And it's hard to believe that's where it all started, right? But when you go through Old Town, some of those businesses are still operating from the very beginning of that renaissance. And of course, many have changed over, and that's good because we need change. But some of the things that are on the horizon that we're working on now are downtown redevelopment. We've had 10 great years. So what's next? So the plan was done over 10 years ago. So now it's time to update that plan. That's on the horizon. Also on the horizon is a plan that we started before COVID and almost got done, and now we're going to finish up, put on the shelf. So anybody know what that plan is? Come on, you know. Downtown streets and parking plan. Parking, yes, parking. Downtown streets and parking. So what do we need to do with downtown streets? Who here likes one-way streets? Do you really? I mean, okay, good, no hands, good. Because the downtown streets plan is partially dealing with the one-way streets. And so you know that the city made good progress on several that are in the Old Town, like between Old Town to the west, right? What are they? And somebody here will tell me if I get them wrong, like St. Francis, right? It's two-way now with parallel parking on it instead of 4 lanes of one way or 3 lanes one way, whatever it was. And what's another one that's done? Emporia, good job, way to go. There's one more, I think. Is there one more? Come on, Gary, tell me, help me out. One more. I don't know. So there's 3 little ones that were done. But now it's time to do some more. right? So we're about to open another hotel, and one hotel's already opened in downtown, just south of Douglas. What's the name of that? Come on. There's a Hilton there with a Starbucks in it now, and about to open is like an AC Marriott, right? So what do hotels bring in? People who aren't used to one-way streets. And so as you get more people in those hotels and you get more, you know how many buildings have redeveloped into apartments downtown? A lot. There are quite a few, not only the core downtown, obviously we know Old Town started redeveloping into apartments first, the core downtown, and now what we call West Bank or Delano area. We call all that part of our central part of our community. And there are new apartments being built on the West Bank of the river, as well as older buildings being renovated. So what does all that mean? When there's more people downtown, it is more vibrant. It is more multifunction. It's busy during the day for office and people like us here for government, but it's also busy in the evening and at night, and it is people's homes. People are out walking their dogs, right? I'm telling you all this because this is the future of economic development in Wichita. It is making places people want to live, and they can live comfortably and affordably, and they can get around without having to take a car everywhere. So the walkability plan that has been a part of our your planning, our planning for some years now is key. And it is about making two-way streets out of one-way streets, because why? Partly because you don't want to go the wrong way down the one-way street. And two, because you need a bike lane on them. And how else are you going to get a bike lane on them besides restriping and making space? And of course, we just don't need all that pavement as much as we used to or thought we used to. So, and sometimes the other reason is parking. We have a lot of parking garages downtown, but are they in the right spots? Are they the most convenient, or do people really still want to park as close as possible? So what did I call that plan we're about to start on? Downtown streets and parking. So these two plans were begun pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, and of course, you know, we just had to put it on the shelf. And so now we're picking those both up. The parking downtown plan is a little bit about, okay, what streets, when we redo them, do we need to put parking on the street and use that asphalt for parking, like we've done on some of these old, what I call it, St. Francis. I was about to say old St. Francis. I don't know, there's only one St. Francis. So some of that planning and designing is a big part of a committee we've just put together, but also led by Gary Jansen, our city engineer there in the back, trying to look like he's busy over there. Yeah, you know him. So I think when you talk about economic development in Wichita, we are focused on the center part of the city. And thus my one slide PowerPoint for you today, because I know you see a lot of PowerPoints, and I just said, we're just going to zero in on one thing. So this is not the whole Wichita map. You guys have a pretty cool map, though. I even printed it in your packet. Thank you for that. The populations of all our communities countywide is an awesome map. This one, though, in front of you is what we call the established central area. And if I say places for people plan, do you know what I'm talking about? Some of you know, that's like Wichita's comprehensive plan, and it's very new. It was done right before COVID a couple years ago, and a lot of public input and a lot of vision for the future. And that's when we get some of the walkability, some of the let's focus on what do we need to focus on, right? So with all due respect to all parts of your area, many cities, several counties, all parts of our big city, Wichita, that aren't on this map, I say due respect, but this map is only here to just kind of focus on what, you know, I mean, I guess planners called it established central area, so that means we'll have to call it ECA. I think it means the core of the community, the heart of the community, maybe. Certainly it's got some older areas in the community. Certainly it's got some vibrant areas and some densely built and densely populated areas, but it also has some areas that are old housing stock that is in sore need of investment, right? It also has some areas where maybe generationally, grandma used to live there, and then mom sort of lived there, took care of it after grandma died, but their son lives in California, right? And so he just inherited it when mom died. And so is he going to invest in that house and in that lot? Rough deal. And so we all know the neighborhoods I'm talking about. And I know y'all can't read the legend on this, so I'm going to tell you. It says in the legend, neighborhood cycle. classification. So the 4 different shades of color on this map, see the pink, red color, the boldest color that you can see is what they're calling formative neighborhoods. And then emerging neighborhoods are gray, so it's really light on your screen. And then the next light bluish is flourishing neighborhood. And then the maturing neighborhood is just this one polygon there is maturing neighborhood. And so planners can figure out how they do all that. But what you all can see is that all through the heart of our community are neighborhoods that are need investment. And that's part of what we're about in terms of Wichita focusing. Does that take anything away from other parts of town or other part? No, I don't think so. And I hope I can hope you all will be with me on that in terms of we're all representing lots of smaller communities and independent communities and loving communities, but all of us in this area all still would love to take part in Riverfest or go to a symphony or to the music theater this weekend at Century 2 or, you know, see the Keeper, whatever. So we all know people and love people who work downtown, live downtown, play downtown. We are those people. Doesn't matter where we live. So I think what I'm trying to say is Wichita's vision is that we have a vibrant region, but that we also consciously think about policies and investments that build up our core. We do not want to be a community of a donut hole that we're afraid to live or work or play downtown. And when I say downtown, what I really mean is this whole established central area. And now that I've said the vision, let's just be very clear. A lot of people buy into this vision, people, business owners, developers, builders, people who own rental homes and try to provide housing for other people. People are buying into it, and there is a lot of investment going on here. And I think you heard numbers from Andrew several months ago in his first report about how many millions of private dollars have been invested in the downtown only, let alone the rest of this area. So I think that will continue. Wichita City staff will continue to work with private developers, real estate agents, trying to make deals and figure out what we can redevelop, how to provide housing, because we all know what's one of our biggest issues these days, not just us, the whole state, the whole country probably, but housing. Right? When you have a baby boom in the 50s after the war and you build all these houses and then you've had these cycles and a lot of folks are still living in those 1940s and 1950s houses that are no longer adequate today. So to have the reinvestment is really huge, and it is our priority. Like I say, there's lots of priorities, but housing really is that. And I'm sure you all know the state's housing study that was released in December for the whole state, because every city's like Wichita in that regard. We all have old housing stock and we all need more builders, right? That state study did conclude that investment at all levels of housing, regardless of income of the occupants and the owners, is a good investment, because even if you're investing in higher level homes, then maybe that means I can move up to a higher level home and someone else can move into my home, and then that releases that apartment for someone else to move into. So it is a trickle up, trickle down kind of a deal. So just like I say, I don't want to keep you all, but I do want to answer any questions you might have. The only other thing, I was just looking at my notes, I think I haven't really addressed much, is the partnership that we have is not only with Greater Wichita Partnership for Economic Development, but it's also with Kansas Global Trade Services and WIBA, Wichita Independent Business Association. Wichita literally has contracts with those 3 organizations that we give them cash and they give us services when it comes to economic development. So you know Greater Wichita Partnership, they're our sales force. They are the folks who do the long-term plans and do the talent and work with businesses to show them the community and help them work deals, work with the state to get incentives, et cetera, whatever's needed to attract them. But do you know what Kansas Global does? Now, I saw them on your agenda for coming up meetings, so I won't get into any details there. But part of what they do is under contract, funded by Wichita taxpayers, and that is to work with businesses that exist now in our community and helping them figure out how to export their products to other countries. Some of those small businesses are set up to export to France, for example, but they've never explored other countries. And that, as you can imagine, is a whole different process, paperwork, et cetera, for every individual country. So it's great to have that kind of knowledge and talent here in town and to share that with other businesses. And that is one of our business growth and expansion, retention and expansion types of initiatives, is to help our current businesses go other places. Now, you can all imagine, since the pandemic, another piece that we're all seeing in the global economy, certainly the national economy, is to onshore. So bring them back. All y'all folks who had exported jobs and factories and branches of U.S. companies to other countries have learned some things during the pandemic, whether we call those supply chain disruptions or whether those we call that your stuff sitting on the barge in the out at San Diego or sitting on the barge over in China, whatever you want to call it. Companies all over the country and the world are re-examining their strategies, their just-in-time approach, and their reliance on other countries and reliance on logistics and transporting goods long distances. So we are benefiting from that, as our offices, all our people are very busy with businesses approaching us, wanting to have, whether it be distribution systems, warehousing systems. And we're talking about why, because we're in the middle of the country. Some of it is that simple. Some of it is that they've just grown so much, they need a new place closer to an area of the country. And sometimes Wichita is closer to the Southwest or to the Texas market, and sometimes it's to the northern market. Sometimes it's to the whole western side of the country first. So we're learning a lot of things in economic development here. And the WEBA contract I just want to mention, since you wanted to know about economic development in Wichita, we contract with the Wichita Independent Business Association for them to provide assistance to startups, like businesses that have already got the startup part, maybe out at WSU or at Groover Labs, they've started, but then they need to be able to network and learn and talk from other business leaders who know how to do like accounting systems and how to handle taxes and how to handle plant and equipment, things that the initial startup of what's your cool idea that you're going to, build a business on. Nobody taught them this before. So WEBA has their focus is on networking, business people learning from each other, and we value that partnership as well in terms of economic development. There is definitely more going on than just trying to get businesses to come here. That is a small part of how we spend our time. Honestly, I tell you, we have more projects that we bring before City Council, for example, that are growing businesses that are already here, or businesses that are somewhere around here, around Wichita, somewhere in one of the towns. Maybe they've reached the point they need to expand more, or they need to be closer to airport, whatever. So I think I've covered a lot of ground, but I don't want to bore anybody. But if you have any questions or expected something different today, tell me what I can do to help. What questions do you have?
Attorney Becky Tuttle.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your presentation. And you have been phenomenal as our Assistant City Manager for Economic Development. So thank you for your service with us. Just because I'm so excited about it, today at City Council, we did something for the first time in our Economic Development Toolbox. And I'm sorry, we're just going to brag. So I think it's worth mentioning. Would you mind just giving everyone an update?
Absolutely. Yes, thank you for saying it. Well, some of the communities here have done this kind of thing in terms of one of the tools the state gave cities a few years back was a community investment district. Did I say that right? Community investment, CID. So it's one of the economic development tools that we have in our tool bag. And it is literally allowed, because before cities were not allowed to levy sales tax. We can't just do it, but the state let us do it. They said, if you draw a district and there's a public purpose to what you need done, you can levy an additional 1% or 2% or some fraction of a sales tax in that district. So whichever, retail businesses are in that district that they already collect sales tax, they could just add on that 1%. And that money would be collected by the city and then used for a public purpose to help the whole district in one way, shape, or form. So a few years ago, in 2015, the city of Wichita started a 1% tax on a handful of businesses out in the northeast Wichita area. That's today the area of the K96 and Greenwich interchange. So think Cabela's, think Academy Sports. If you've been out that way, it's a big place. A lot of people enter and exit K96. Well, back then it wasn't a full interchange, and the city and the brilliant engineers with the state and the city, met some of whom may be in the room, who knows, they were thinking forward and thinking, you know, we need an interchange here because this highway gets a lot of traffic, and to get people off the highway is kind of difficult. So investment in that was what the Wichita City Council approved, a 1% sales tax increase for a limited period of time on businesses that would develop in the area. Of course, at that time it was, you know, blank ground, but over time, of course, Academy, Duluth Trading, Dave & Buster's, if you go out there, there's a bunch of them, but they all have built, they've been collecting the tax, and a mere 7 years, the city council today just ended that tax. They said, you know, we set this up for 22 years, which is what a CID is allowed to be set up. But sure enough, the businesses came, the people came. As you know, that area is anchored by the Wichita Sports Forum, which is a place mostly for young folks' ball tournaments, basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, that kind of thing. So when folks come into town for one of these tournaments, there are thousands of people out there. So you know they have to eat and they want to shop. And so some of our expenses for paying for that highway interchange were outsourced, offloaded to visitors. And of course, some of us around here shop at those places too. So eliminating that 1% tax in 7 years instead of 22 years was awesome. And it is monumental because the first time it's happened here. And I hope it'll continue to happen here and other places that have started those taxes. And hopefully a lot of them are successful and they find they can end them sooner than 22 years. But this was the first one. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, Kathy, I want to thank you for coming. One of the things when Chad and I started talking about economic development and these type of briefings are very important to us because all of the goods and services that we consume here have to come in somehow. And so we need transportation in order to be able to move them in. But we are a huge manufacturing organization in this area. And so all of the things we manufacture have to move out of this area. So again, it's relying on our transportation. And we've got a lot of electeds in this room. And one of the things that I pride myself on is that if I'm elected to represent this area, I need to be a cheerleader for this area. And that's what I try to be all the time, as a cheerleader for this region. And how many of you were able to go to the Deloitte presentations this past week? Unfortunately, just about 3 or 4 of us. So if I can hold down my button at the same time, I can pull up a slide on my phone that was taken at the Deloitte symposium that they had over at the Hyatt. How many of you know what Deloitte is? They teach manufacturers how to be better manufacturers for the future. And so they're going to bring in about 200 Fortune 500 type companies into Wichita every single year. And some of those companies are going to have an opportunity to see Wichita and decide that this is the place that they want to be. And so again, we need to be cheerleaders. But they had one slide that was kind of impressive to me. And they says, why Wichita? Facts about Wichita and Wichita State University. Wichita, highest percentage of STEM jobs in the nation. Highest percentage of STEM jobs in the nation. That's impressive. Brookings Institute, called South Kansas, has the most manufacturing specialized in the entire nation. Number 1 in manufacturing jobs as a percentage of all jobs in the nation. WSU is ranked first in industry-funded aerospace R&D by National Science Foundation. WSU is number 2 in the overall industry funding among the universities with over $500 million in R&D expenditures. That's pretty impressive for this region. But again, it requires transportation in order to get all those goods and services in here and the finished product out of here. And we have a number of great organizations that are making that happen. We have, as Kathy mentioned, we have Greater Wichita Partnership. Now she went over the 3 priorities. One of those 3 priorities is talent. That's one of the places that we do have. We got Friends, we got Newman, we got WSU Tech, we got WSU, we got KU Medical Center. We've got some great education opportunities here, but we still need more people. We are exporting our best talent in the world to other areas. So we've got to, with all of the things that are happening here, as Kathy talked about, we have to have quality of life in order to keep those people here, because our unemployment is extremely low right now, which normally you'd say is a great thing. But I was just at the GWP meeting this past week, and talent is probably the biggest issue that they've got right now. I heard from Textron, I heard from
Bombardier.
Bombardier, okay? Both of those companies said, we can't find the people. And as a matter of fact, Textron was talking about, you bring them in, you bring someone in, we'll put them in school. And if they want to keep going through school, we'll keep paying for it. And if they want to be a pilot, we're going to pay for that because we need pilots for the future. So these companies are providing a lot of incentives to get the talent here and to keep the talent. We're blessed by having WSU Tech, and that was before my time, but we had a county commission that said, hey, that education is important. And I don't know how many of you know, but the county commission paid for WSU Tech and gave it to WSU free of charge. Matter of fact, we're still paying for it today. If you want to help us with our bond issue, I would be happy. But the thing that's happening.
It went off.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm still on. What's happening in the near future, I'm hoping, is that we'll have a new health science center downtown, and we'll start having thousands of people, along with the new OD school that we've got downtown, right in downtown Wichita, are going to school. So I'm not talking about just Wichita, I'm talking about this region, and this region is flourishing, and we need to keep that going. And that's one of the main reasons that I keep these different discussions going in the future, so that you all can be cheerleaders also, just as I am, on what's happening in this future and why the things like WAMPO and KDOT and the Federal Highway Administration to help us be able to move those goods and services in. So sorry I talked so long, but last week was just absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry that if you hadn't had an opportunity to go watch the Deloitte presentations, but that is going to be a game changer here. The new Health Science Center is going to be a game changer. The new OD facility is going to be a game changer. There's just so much happening, and I just read you why that one of the nation's premier companies chose Wichita. So I talked too long, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Kathy? Oh, thank you.